I'm waiting, Cloud.
In this Final Fantasy VII Rebirth video, I'm going to be talking about my hands-on impressions playing the demo that just came out for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, tell you what I think about it, and if it's something you might want to check out or not. If you have a PlayStation and you're curious about the game, I strongly urge you to go check out the demo, download it, give it a try, and see what you think. The demo is only about 2 to 3 hours long, depending on your skill level. It's not much longer. It's about the same length as the previous demo for the previous Final Fantasy VII Remake game. So if you're like wondering how long the demo is or how much of the game you're going to see, it is a very, very small slice, and it's not like a ton, but it will give you a general idea of how the game is. So the first thing I want to talk about is the performance and graphics modes of the game. There's basically two settings. One that, lowers the visual fidelity but increases your FPS, and another that increases the visual fidelity but kind of puts you right around 30 FPS in my opinion. I couldn't be sure if it was 30 FPS or not, but it looks like it's 30 FPS to me. So you're going to have to decide whether you want the game to look better or to run smoother. I always default to performance mode. The game does not look stunning in performance mode, I will say. It plays very smoothly. It's, not a bad game to look at by any means, but it's not going to like blow your mind in performance mode. It definitely looks a lot better in the fidelity mode of the game.
So how did it...
Another thing I'll mention is that the voice act in the game is still better in Japanese, in my opinion, just like the previous remake was, than English. The English is not terrible. It's also not great, but I prefer the Japanese voiceover. So if you're someone who likes playing, Japanese role-playing games with Japanese voiceovers, which I think is generally better, you probably want to do it in this game as well. But there is a decent English if you want, in English.
Don't be shy. I have many pupils your age. At last count, 128.
And I'll just say in general that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth feels a lot like Final Fantasy VII Remake in terms of the way the game is presented, in terms of the control schemes, in terms of the combat, etc. If you played that game, you're going to feel right at home here, and if you really liked Final Fantasy VII Remake for what it is, then you should enjoy Final Fantasy VII Rebirth from what I've seen so far. The things about it that, made the remake the way it was have not changed much, so it's kind of the same formula more or less. And one of the main points is that there is a lot of Tifa in this game. If you liked Tifa in the first game, I know there's a lot of fans of Tifa out there. You're going to be getting a pretty healthy dose of Tifa in the demo, and I would expect that to remain the case through most of the game. There are some differences, though. The first one being that there is a big open-world map that you're going to be able to explore. You don't get to do it in the demo, but you can see its existence in the demo. If you zoom all the way out, you'll kind of get an idea of what this overworld map is going to look like and be like. We don't have a great idea in terms of size because you can kind of scroll around the edges of the screens to kind of try and see like how big is this map. And I kind of get the feeling that you're not able to see all of the map from what we're looking at so far in terms of just like, what the boundaries of it are. A lot of it's obviously covered by like Fog of War or Grayed Out or whatever, so you're not actually seeing what's on the map. But I don't think this is the entire space of the map, otherwise it would probably be a pretty small game. And what we know from Final Fantasy VII Remake is it was not small at all. So I don't expect this game to be that small. And I think the overworld map is going to be a lot larger than kind of what you can extrapolate from just looking at in the demo. And of course, you get to play as Sephiroth in the demo. That is just a ton of fun. He is a badass character. Playing with him is so much fun. And he is such an iconic character associated with Final Fantasy VII. He might be the most famous character in the entire franchise, if you don't include Tifa and the thirst around her. And obviously there are new enemies in the demo that you're going to face, and there'll be new enemies in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth in general, and that's just going to be a lot of fun. I'm sure we'll see repeats from previous enemies, but figuring out strategies, taking on new bosses and enemies is obviously going to be a huge part of this game, and it's just nice to see some new enemies in the demo and kind of mix it up a little bit. I enjoyed that a lot as well. And there isn't a ton more to say about the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth demo. I mean, there is a lot of similarity to the previous game, and I think fans of the previous game are really going to feel at home here and really enjoy this one. And, there isn't a lot of change from what I've seen so far. Obviously, you're going to have the open world element where you're going to be moving around on the world map and exploring, which I think will be a nice addition to the game because the first one was very much on rails, a very linear experience. Mixing that up with some open world will be a big change, I think. But I think it's one that's going to be welcomed by just about everyone in general. So again, I encourage you to check out the demo if you have not previously. It's currently on PlayStation 5, and see if you like it. If you played the previous one, I'm pretty sure you will. But if you haven't, there is a nice little recap at the beginning that kind of goes through the story, kind of like explain the events that happened in the first game. And as I was watching it, it's really funny because, I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy VII, having played the original back in the day on PlayStation 1. But as I was watching the recap of the story, I was thinking, this is a really convoluted story. Like, holy hell. It's weird to, go through the game and experience it. Doesn't seem as convoluted. But when you're watching a recap as if it was a movie, there is some, a lot to this. And it was really fun to kind of explore that. So I urge you to watch the recap, even if you played, the first remake. Watch the recap because it's just kind of fun to go through. And for those of you out there who have played the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth demo, I'd be curious to hear what you think. Do you like the fact that there's going to be an open world map? Do you like the fact that the game is very similar, or are there some changes that you were hoping they would implement? I'm kind of my jury's kind of still out on the combat of the game. I know some people really love the combat of it, but I almost kind of preferred the turn-based style of the older version of the game. I don't know why. It just never really clicked with me, the new combat, but I hear a lot of people really, really praising the combat of the game. Do you like the combat? Do you wish it was a bit different? Let me know in the comments below.